Hi everyone, this video is a part of my Korea University's coding tutorials. Hi everyone, today we'll be talking about using nested and mixed conditions. Like some of the previous sections, it's important to have a good understanding of conditions before continuing. So make sure you've seen the previous condition sections or have a sound understanding of conditions before going further. Nested conditions. Nested conditions are later if and or if-else conditions. They can be very useful and provide some good functionality. However, you don't want to create so many nested conditions that it becomes confusing. If you think it makes more sense to separate things out, then you probably should. For now, let's take a look at an example of a nested condition. Here we have our first Boolean expression, which is the first decision point in this program. If we take the first true branch, we execute that code block and then move to the rest of the program. If we take the first false branch, we immediately evaluate our second Boolean expression, which is the second decision point in this condition. It, in turn, has its own set of true and false branches. Even in nested condition, we only take one branch and then move on to the rest of our program. As you can see here in the flowchart, we always move on to the rest of our code, but we only take one branch before doing so. You're probably sick of hearing it, but we need to be careful. Without curly brackets, we have lengthy blocks of code which can be tricky to keep track of what branch each section of code belongs to. More examples. Let's go through another nested condition example. Here we have an int variable x given the value -1. The point of this nested condition is to determine if x is a positive or negative number, or if it's equal to 0. We start with our variable declaration and initialization. Then we move to the first Boolean expression, which is using the equal to operator. We find our first expression to be false, and -1 and 0 are not equal. So we move our program on. In the false branch of the first Boolean condition, we see the second Boolean expression. We repeat the steps above where we take the path that matches the outcome of the Boolean expression. In this case, -1 is not greater than 0. So we take the false branch of the second Boolean condition, which prints x is negative. Our last example for today is another way to visualize and use the if and if-else condition blocks. We start off with a temperature variable called temp, which is set at 35. We have tried to be more efficient with our logic and are mindful of the order things are checked in to reduce repeated checks on the same thing. We start with our first Boolean expression, which checks if temp is less than 10. This is false, so we move to the else branch and then the if condition and Boolean expression contained within. The second Boolean expression checks if temp is less than 20. In our example, this is also false. We move to the else branch of the nested if condition, which contains our third and final if condition and Boolean expression. This expression checks if the temp is greater than 30. By this time, we know this is the only path we can take because of the value we set. You can see that we are stepping through each line expression carefully and evaluating each line along the way to make sure we are following the correct path as outlined by the logic of our program. This practice is going to be very important to understand more complex structures in the future and as more complicated Boolean expressions start turning up. That's all for this section. We hope you have a new tool in your kit for your next program. See everyone in the next section.